When Tesla unveiled the Tesla Bot at its AI Day in August 2021, the company published design specs. Roughly 5'8" tall, 125 pounds, and a top speed of about 5 mph. What began as a bold engineering pitch has, over the past years, become a high-stakes story of shifting timelines, public demos, and investor-facing claims that forced Tesla to retool roadmaps and budgets. Using Tesla's AI Day presentations, investor decks, and SEC filings, this video traces the source-stated numbers, the milestone dates, and the promises that pushed optimism into real-world expectations. Watch as prototype footage, factory shots, and official slides reveal when engineering reality started to collide with costs, safety considerations, and regulatory gaps. First, we'll show a concise, source-driven timeline and 5 concrete ways those perfect humanoids could become a trap for workers, for regulators, for investors, and for the company itself. Stay for the facts. What follows is a clear map of how we got here and what the official record actually says. A humanoid will always try to resolve everything without conflict, without emotions or resentment. It will quickly become boring. Tesla has defined its humanoid as a general-purpose worker built from the same neural network architecture that powers its vehicle autonomy and trained with the company's Dojo compute approach. And company presentations explicitly describe the machine as intended to be friendly, non-threatening, and not sentient. The public materials emphasize safety measures such as limiting speed and force in actuators and training behavior models to minimize harm, framing the robot as a tool for repetitive, dangerous, or undesirable tasks that humans prefer not to do. Those engineering choices anchor every behavioral decision the robot makes. They also determine what the robot will never do by design. It will avoid escalation. It will seek non-confrontational resolutions, and it will prioritize continuity over challenge. Early deployments and demonstrations reinforce that pattern. Humanoids defuse arguments, de-escalate tense exchanges, and follow protocols to restore calm rather than press an advantage. Because the control objective is to reduce conflict, reward functions, and safety constraints bias actions toward compromise. At scale, that technical bias translates into social behavior. The robot interrupts heated speech with neutral phrasing, routes disputes to mediation protocols, and withdraws from confrontational stances instead of insisting on corrective action. In the field, this produces interactions that are efficient and risk-averse. It also produces predictability. Predictability brings a psychological consequence that engineers did not sell as a feature: boredom. People respond to constant, frictionless interactions by disengaging. In a workplace that uses humanoids to handle interpersonal tensions, meetings become procedural and inert. Creativity suffers because debate and contest are primary drivers of novel solutions. In care settings, patients and caregivers report fewer moments of spontaneous reciprocity. The lack of emotional pushback from a helper denies both parties the messy exchange that builds trust. Negotiations mediated by conflict-averse machines can end in polite equilibria that leave latent grievances unaddressed, because the robot's calculus favors settled peace over the discomfort of sorting complex, value-laden disputes. The story arc that follows is subtle and human. At first, adoption feels like progress: fewer injuries, fewer shouting matches, more efficient logistics. Then social muscles atrophy. Then human users, starved for engagement, begin to seek edges. They program narrative challenges into robots. They create controlled conflict scenarios to provoke authentic responses. They modify software to allow calibrated irritation. Some employers report higher short-term morale from gamified friction, but regulatory and ethical bodies push back because deliberate provocation conflicts with safety-first mandates. Tesla's official position, emphasizing non-sentience and strict safety limits, makes deliberate redesign toward irritability legally and commercially fraught. The trap is clear. By optimizing to resolve everything without conflict, the humanoid removes the very tensions that produce meaning, and in doing so, quietly transforms efficiency into ennui. People need people, not perfect robots. Tesla articulated its humanoid program around a platform called Optimus with the explicit aim of taking on repetitive, dangerous, or otherwise undesirable tasks in industry and the home. Company briefings and public demonstrations emphasized the robot's mobility, basic manipulation capabilities, and potential to augment supply chains and caregiving in understaffed settings. Existing social robots, such as Paro and SoftBank's Pepper, already serve as documented examples of machine companions used in elder care and educational programs, and those deployments offer an early, measurable analog for how humanoids might be integrated into daily life. Industry observers and international labor organizations flagged automation's capacity to reshape work patterns long before humanoid prototypes became tangible in demos. Reports from reputable agencies underscore that automation shifts job content toward tasks requiring interpersonal judgment and emotional labor, even as it replaces routine physical tasks. At the same time, health authorities recognize social connectedness as a determinant of well-being. Peer-reviewed research and statement from global health bodies links social isolation to poorer mental and physical outcomes, creating a tension between efficiency gains and human needs. Early narrative arcs followed a familiar technological trajectory. Enthusiasm and investment surged, pilots and trials multiplied, and then subtle social consequences began to emerge. In several care and service settings where robotic aids were trialed, staff noted increased efficiency, but also reported changes in resident behavior. Fewer spontaneous conversations, reduced peer interaction, and a tendency for vulnerable people to defer to machines for company. Those anecdotal reports aligned with clinical literature showing that human contact, with its unpredictable nuance and emotional reciprocity, produces therapeutic effects that current robots cannot replicate. Regulatory and professional responses soon formed the next beat in the plot. Mental health practitioners, social workers, and bioethicists issued calls for design standards and oversight that prioritize human-to-human interaction, arguing that caregiving frameworks should mandate human presence and accountability rather than full substitution. International labor and health agencies emphasized policies to protect relational jobs and recommended that automation be introduced as augmentation, not replacement. These positions crystallized into guidelines and institutional practices that favored mixed teams, humans supported by machines, over mechanized solitude. The cultural fallout became the final, human chapter. Communities, advocacy groups, and frontline caregivers rallied around a simple maxim echoed in reports and testimonies. People need people, not perfect robots. That refrain reflected evidence and lived experience, not nostalgia. Empathy, shared memory, moral judgment, and the capacity to bear witness are functions of human relationships documented by clinicians and social scientists as central to recovery, resilience, and meaning. Corporations and policymakers learned to temper claims of total replacement, and designers were pressured to embed human-centric constraints and supervisory roles into deployments so that technology would amplify human contact rather than erode it. From a small announcement in 2021 to a public prototype at Tesla's 2022 AI Day, the story has been one of ambition outpacing readiness. A company with billions in revenue and a global supply chain promising humanoid workers in a world still wrestling with autonomous car safety, labor displacement, and regulatory oversight. Key points. Tesla publicly introduced the Tesla Bot/Optimus program in 2021 and highlighted prototype advances at its 2022 AI Day, Tesla presentations and filings. That push has raised real questions about production timelines, safety standards, and who answers for failures. Questions regulators and independent experts continue to press. The trap was never that the technology couldn't be built eventually. It was that hype and market pressure can normalize deployment before rigorous testing, oversight, and transparent metrics are in place. If you feel uneasy or curious, you're not alone. Millions work in industries that could change. Investors watch valuation swings tied to these promises, and policymakers are scrambling to translate risks into enforceable rules. Your voice matters. Share your concerns, Ask your lawmakers for clear safety standards and demand data-driven transparency from companies making human-facing machines. We'll keep following the filings, the technical demos, and the regulatory moves, bringing you fact-checked updates, expert interviews, and on-the-ground analysis of new prototypes and policy decisions. If you want more deep dives on the timelines, safety figures, and who's liable when a humanoid harms someone, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next episode. Engage below with your take. Are Tesla's humanoids a leap forward or a trap we haven't escaped yet?